A wrap here.
Hey, it must be Friday because we are back with another Scope Up Sports live show. My name is Colby Wyatt.
And I'm Baylan Wysuph. Man, I've been waiting for this episode all week.
I don't blame you. I was just told everything we're talking about, and man, it's exciting.
Are we going to talk about football at all? Or?
I've been told there is talk about football.
And basketball and tennis, maybe?
That and even more.
Wow. Well, let's get into it.
Brandy, you're a fine buffalo. While Ralphie7 loves to run, she also loves classic rock, as she got her individual nickname by the handlers this week. She was named Brandy after affinity to the song Brandy, You're a Fine Girl by the band Looking Glass. According to CU Athletics, however, some may say there is a double meaning. Can Buffaloes really appreciate classic rock? Or is it a nod to CU's reputation of being a party school? Who knows?
16 isn't just Ryan Staub's jersey number. It's also the amount of surgeries Coach Prime has undergone in the past few years due to multiple health complications. Last Tuesday, he underwent an aspiration thrombectomy, a procedure that addressed the reoccurring blood clots behind his left knee. At the game against TCU, he was visibly in pain, limping on the sidelines, and eventually ditching his shoe in the second half. Prime has faced serious health issues in the past, including his clotting issues, 2 toe amputations, and surgeries to address his bladder cancer. But 4 hours of surgery didn't keep him down for long. On Wednesday, he was already back on the field and is ready to lead his team into their matchup against Iowa State tomorrow.
Coach Prime and the Buffs traveled to Fort Worth last weekend to face the Horned Frogs of TCU. Unfortunately, the Buffs' surge in the second quarter ended tragically. Liam Howard and Xavier McNevitz broke down the game.
And that is a wrap here in Fort Worth, Texas. The Colorado Buffaloes falling at the hands of the TCU Horned Frogs 35-21. I'm Liam Howard, Xavier McNevitz. What did you see in this loss for the Buffaloes?
The same mistakes we've been seeing all season long. Coach Prime said in his press conference it comes down to 2-3 big plays, and that's what we saw once again. You see Caden Salter throw 3 interceptions. You see him score 14 points first 2 drives, and then you don't see him consistently operate until then, and then you see the defense come out and get stops, and then they can't get stops when it matters, and that's kind of what we saw.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Caden Salter struggled mightily in this game, those three interceptions, and then there was the punt as well that was muffed and turned over to TCU. It was the most turnovers in a game for Colorado since 2022, the dreaded 2022 season, and that is not the type of mentality or reputation that Coach Prime wants to establish here with this Colorado team. Looking at Colorado's defense, what did you see from that unit in this game?
I saw a pretty good run stop, right? I think that the defense is actually consistently getting better every week compared to what the offense is doing, right? The offense seems like they're getting better. Then they're 1 step forward, 2 steps back, right? But the defense has really consistently been getting better in terms of stopping the run. But what really struggled today was those defensive backs, as we kind of predicted, right? I mean, that TCU offense is an air raid offense, and we saw those defensive backs, especially Preston Hodge, really struggled today.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and it seemed like Colorado's defense was there in spurts and then not there in spurts as well. It was like at moments you're seeing a Colorado defense that has taken steps forward and that looks improved, and then afterwards you are seeing a Colorado defense that looks exactly how they did at the start of the season. Right. So overall, a bit of a head scratcher at moments there for that Colorado defense. But now looking towards next week against Iowa State, what do you think that Colorado needs to improve on or change going into that game?
I think that Colorado really just needs to be consistent. And Coach says it starts in practice, but in my opinion, I think it starts with coaching, right? And Coach Prime doesn't really want to throw his players or his coaching under the bus, right? But it really does start with coaching. We haven't seen consistent play calling. We haven't seen consistent adjustments from first quarter, second quarter. I mean, TCU goes down and scores, ties the game up 14-14 in 6 plays, right? And that's really on coaching. I really think that coaching needs to improve, and it needs to be the little things and the discipline if the Buffs want to go and upset Iowa State.
Yeah, and Coach mentioned the attitude and mentality of this team needs to change in practice. He says he's seen the same things on the field as he's seen in games, both in practice and in games, but now needing to see that mentality switch from his team, he believes. But Colorado going to be back in Boulder next week to take on Iowa State. And remember, you heard it here first.
Colorado let another one slip away Saturday, falling to TCU 35-21. The Buffs raced out to a 14-0 lead, but couldn't hold on, undone by 4 turnovers and missed opportunities. Quarterback Caden Salter threw for 2 touchdowns and ran for another, while Amarion Miller shined with nearly 90 yards and 2 scores. Still, TCU capitalized on Colorado's mistakes, scoring twice late to seal the deal, dropping the Buffaloes to 2-4.
This week, the Cyclones of Iowa State come to Boulder. Let's take you to our crew on SBS Football Live who made their predictions on Saturday's outcome.
Moves us to our feature game of the week, the Colorado Buffaloes hosting a wounded number 22 Iowa State team. Who do you got?
Just like you say, a wounded Iowa State team. I think that this is one that Colorado can kind of steal. I think that this is something that Iowa State will definitely be underestimating the Buffaloes coming into this matchup. They're coming up to play at altitude. They're coming off of a loss. They've dropped in the rankings. The critics are jumping all over them right now. I think they're a little bit in their heads. I think that Colorado will have to start off strong in the first, not just the first quarter, but also the third quarter, coming out of the locker room. We've seen Iowa State be able to come back. I think Colorado can walk away with maybe a 3-point victory.
Well, as I was walking up to the studio, guys, today, I had Iowa State by, a big margin. I kept on coming and talking to some more people, and it was like, the more and more I talk to other people, the more and more I like to see CU keep this game close. But you mentioned the wounded Cyclones. You know who's not wounded right now is their head coach, Matt Campbell. He knows how to win these types of games. I think he'll win this coaching matchup like a lot of people have against Deion Sanders. Nothing against him this season. That's just been what's the reality of the second half performances from this team. I was initially going to say Cyclones by 17. I'll give Colorado the benefit of the doubt. I think this will be a 10-point game. But Iowa State, in my opinion, is just too explosive for the Buffs. They've made improvements, Colorado has, in competing in these games recently. But I don't really think they're going to compete in this one, unfortunately, for CU faithful.
Yeah, when I look at this, it's an afternoon game. All right, 1:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Those have been favorable for Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes. Not only that, you're at home. And you're in basically a do-or-die position for your season. Because I think if the Colorado Buffaloes lose this game, Caden Salter's done at quarterback. There is no actual reason you can come out and tell the world that you are not going to play the true freshman Julian Juju Lewis, who has been waiting, who you have talked about this entire offseason. So this game is going to be the deciding factor in that. That being said, I think Caden Salter is going to do his absolute best to figure it out and not, turn the ball over and come and get this victory. Because I think he realizes if he don't, his time at quarterback
is on the
Colorado
line.
is over. And I think, with that being said, with that mindset, the blood clots, I think the players are going to be more riled up for Deion Sanders this week. They're going to see the way the media has talked about their coach. They're going to see the way that he's had to fight through this adversity, and that's going to be the rallying cry for them to come out and find a way to win, even though Iowa State is clearly the better team.
Yeah, you mentioned this is Caden Salter's make-or-break game. It really is. This is the end of the line for him. This is the end of the line for his career. He's got to put it on the field and play well against this Iowa State team, and he's facing a tough Iowa State defense. That's a tall task, facing this Iowa State defense. And I told you a few weeks ago, I was not very high on this Iowa State team early in the season. As if you go back and watch me pick Arkansas State to beat them a few weeks ago, which they almost did, I will ride with that pick. That was a good pick. I think that I told you that if they defeated Arizona, I'd be a believer. They not only defeated them, they stomped them.
They did.
So I picked them to win against Cincinnati, and they blew it. So you know what?
They had one shot.
I am hopping off the bandwagon faster than Caden Salter hops out of clean pockets. Give me the Buffs by 1,000,000 over Iowa State with a win at Folsom Field. Thank you all for joining us here on Scobuff Sports Football Live. I'm Liam Howard alongside Leah Rivera, Mia Driscoll, Shane Holcomb. Reminder, there will be no show next week with Colorado being on a bye, but you heard it here first.
The number 22 ranked Cyclones come to Boulder tomorrow, only opening as 3.5-point favorites. However, the Buffaloes' 2-4 record and 0-3 conference play start. They have a chance to flip the script. Iowa State is coming off a loss to the Cincinnati Bearcats, where they allowed nearly 500 total yards with 260 on the ground. However, the Buffaloes offense is still dealing with inconsistencies such as Salter's 3 picks against TCU. The Buffaloes defense will have to deal with the arm of Rocco Becht, who despite the loss still threw for 300 yards. It's going to take a complete game from Colorado to defeat Iowa State, which has still yet to be seen.
What's up, guys? I'm Harrison Simeon, joined by Leo Rivera IV, and it's time once again for Buff's Film Review, as Caden Salter had his worst game as a Colorado Buffalo against the TCU Horned Frogs, and he had 3 first-half interceptions that very much contributed to it, and we're going to break them all down. So we're going to start on the opening drive of Colorado's day, and it's going to be 20 personnel, which means 2 running backs, 1 little flare going out to Salter's right, 2 receivers to his left, 1 up top. What do you see here, Leo?
Yeah, we're going to see a rare miss here by Colorado's offensive line, and it comes from this simulated pressure look from TCU. Roll the clip. Pause here. As you can see, TCU dropped back their linebackers, and we had a tackle end stunt occur here that confuses Zy Chrysler, the right guard. What happens here is that this defensive tackle, who initially started over here, is moving out towards Jordan Seaton's side to create a lane and cause this disruption. That's going to open up room for the looping defender to come around. And Zy Chrysler opens his hip up too much to the right, creates that nice, easy path. Zarian McGill sees it just too late, and now we're going to get a free rusher right in Caden Salter's face.
Yeah, flushes him out to his right. We're going to keep it rolling. And Salter, kind of a little deja vu here, floats this one into danger, and it's going to be picked off. Very similar to his interception against BYU, which cost Colorado the game. This one cost them a chance at scoring after a really promising looking opening drive. So we're going to keep it rolling. And we got second play where we have, once again, a little close formation. But this time it's going to be a protection that really helps out Salter, and it's really on him this time.
Yeah, here you're having a down block look. All the offensive linemen are going to go to your left. You're simulating run, and then you're having designed rollout for Caden Salter. As you can see, great protection for the Colorado's offensive line. They did a great job of freezing these linebackers. As you can see, feet planted. These guys aren't going anywhere based upon the offensive lineman's movement.
Yeah, and they froze the defensive line too. Salter's very freely rolling out to his right, but he has a guy in Omarion Miller right up there. But instead of possibly floating one over the top, which you'd like to see in a sideline situation where you can put it in where only your receiver can get it, or it's an incomplete pass, Salter tries to do a little too much, goes with a sidearm throw, and that, with the traffic downfield, a lower football is going to create more chaos in the process, and that defensive back makes a leaping interception that stunted Colorado's offensive movement in the first half once again.
It was a phenomenal play by the defensive back, but one that could have been avoided if Salter simply just set his feet and made that decision earlier, Harrison. You saw Salter made a quick pump where he thought about winding up the pass and letting it go, and he hesitated. That brief, hesitation gave the DB a chance to get in position and make that phenomenal play.
Yeah, it's razor-thin margins. It was razor-thin margins this past weekend, and we saw it on all 3 of those interceptions. And in a very tight situation here, Colorado's going down to the field, going down, trying to score before the first half's over. And we have a very well-designed play, but what do you see?
Yeah, if you look here, you're going to get 2 curls in the early goal line stages of this route. But one thing that Caden Salter is doing, his eyes never move. He is staring down Omarion Miller this entire time, and there is no question on where he's wanting to go with this football.
Yeah, and he had Zach Atkins if he just set his feet, looked around a little bit earlier. I know it's a quick hitter, but when it's a quick hitter, you have to get that ball out immediately, and instead gets it tipped up in the air and costs Colorado a chance of 7 points. That's a 7-point swing interception, and it was really tough for Caden Salter to just not be a day late, a dollar short. It was overall a really rough half, and while he made things a little bit better in the second half, the consistency has been extremely lacking for Colorado's quarterback. Back to you guys at the desk.
CU Athletics announced new security measures this week after the university was fined $50,000 by the Big 12 for a derogatory chant during last month's game against BYU. The changes include more security staff in the stands and student section, plus undercover officers to ensure quick removals when needed. Plus, CU will also install new technology to monitor fan behavior and enhance communication through the stadium's text assistance line. And violations of the fan code of conduct could lead to immediate removal and even loss of ticket privileges for the season. The new rules will take effect this Saturday when the Buffs host Iowa State. For more details on these changes, read Lincoln Roach's full story on ScoBuffSports.com.
Hi everyone, I'm Hannah Howell here with this week's Buff Banner, and I'm joined by Lincoln Roach and Harrison Simeon to discuss our current quarterback situation. So we'll get into the questions. Harrison, we'll start with you. Who do you think should start versus Iowa State?
And while it's like behind us at quite a dumpster fire right now, I think the reasonable, safe pick is Caden Salter. Obviously, there have been some calls for Julian Lewis to go for the youngster, but playing a team like Iowa State, their defense is stout. It's legit. It had an off week last time out against Cincinnati, cost them their first loss of the season, and so they're going to be playing angry, not just as talented as they are. They're going to be playing with motivation. So I think the safe pick is to still ride with Salter, even though he's made some mistakes. He has shown he can play well, so I think Salter's the right pick.
That's great. Lincoln, what do you think?
Look, I obviously respect Harrison a lot, as a reporter and journalist, but clearly he has no intellect because, the clear choice here is Ryan Staub. No question.
Come on.
No, but look, I think there is a real case because we've only seen Staub a little bit. We've seen a lot of Salter. We've seen some good plays by Staub and some bad. We've seen a lot of bad plays and some good plays by Salter. I think there's a reason, CU fans at the Delaware game were booing Salter, right? And then if we're looking at stats here too, right? Staub in a game and maybe, really 5-10 minutes max playing in Delaware. We see 2 touchdowns. We do see 1 interception, right, at Houston. But if you then look at that versus Salter, right, we're at 4 interceptions. 3 in 1 game.
Right.
The last game. I think we are actively kind of watching him get worse in that second half in his performance. If you look at Georgia Tech, right, it was nail-biting loss. BYU, a bit less of a nail-biter, but still a nail-biter. Now we're at TCU where they're just racking up points in that second quarter. And I have a feeling at Iowa State, if we leave him in, we're going to see a lot of fans gone by the fourth quarter. But, yeah, I think what we have seen of Staub has been promising, to say the least. And I'm just getting sick and tired of seeing Salter, decide to try to run it himself and, lose us 14 yards.
Sure.
Okay. Great little discussion there. Now, do you guys think Juju will be getting any meaningful play time this year? What do you think?
I do. I think if, we see this week, Iowa State, things might get out of hand. Next week, same thing, Utah. That's 2 tough defenses, 2 extremely well-equipped teams. Salter, while I think he is the right choice, it's kind of the lesser of 3 evils. I'm not saying Lewis or Staub would be all that terrible, but with Lewis, it's just the inexperience. But you have to see it down the stretch this season. You have to give him some shot. While there have been some calls to redshirt, if maybe things get too late in the season, you can still give him 3 games, those last 3 or whatever may be the case, and still give him that extra year under his belt to keep developing. So I think Lewis should definitely play. Maybe even this week if things get a little testy.
Lincoln?
I really agree with you. I think if I'm Coach Prime, I'm kind of already thinking to next year. Right. Obviously, we're going to lose Salter no matter what. And I think as we get worse, we should start playing him more. Really to just give him the reps and experience, as you were saying. And while I think for sure when we're seeing games like West Virginia and Kansas State, I think we'll see a lot of him. I think at a certain point, when we hit that 6th loss, and what's the point anymore for this season, I think there's a good case to just throw him in as starter every game, except that we're going to lose some,
Right.
Maybe like an ASU, it could be a rough game, but sometimes you want that horrible experience, you know, that
So
then drives you,
Right.
you know, gives you that experience you never want to have again. So that's why I think we could really benefit in the long run from putting him in.
Yeah, I think also a point about that is it's the modern college football right now. There's always the transfer portal. If you don't see him at all, teams are going to be looking like, hey, is Juju looking elsewhere? This was a 5-star recruit at some point.
Yeah.
You have to give him a shot. Otherwise, he's going to maybe get antsy on the sideline, continuing to watch the Colorado Buffaloes lose, and that's never what you want to see. You have to give him that experience so he's not going into next year when he has the keys, when he is the full-time starter, still so inexperienced.
For sure.
Now, if they keep losing, what kind of changes should they make to their quarterback situation?
I have an idea.
Okay.
And I really think we need to start thinking outside the box here. Play all 3 every game. Okay? You start with Salter, right? You know, put him in for the first quarter. You know, let him rack up 2 touchdowns maybe. You know, he is a first half quarterback.
He has gotten off those hot starts.
Yeah, he gets off to a hot start. Then, right, for that middle 8, right, as we're kind of getting down to the clock management-esque worries, put Staub in. You know, if nothing else, we have seen him thrive in a 2-minute warning, right? And then once we're still losing the game, I would just throw Lewis in for the second half and give him the reps.
Yeah. Well, that quite frankly is blasphemous. I think you have to stick with one guy at some point, whether it be, you know, like I said, if things get out of hand, you put it in Lewis, but then you go into the next week, you instill confidence into either Salter or Lewis that they're going to get either that second chance or that continued opportunity. So it's been a carousel all year, but they're trying to win regardless of the stakes, even if they're at 2-8, 2-7. It's not like they're going to go into a week like saying, oh, let's just experiment. Salter's on his way out, but let's still play him. Staub might not be the starter next year, but let's still play him, see what he's got. It's just going to keep hurting the confidence of all 3 of those guys because they're always wondering, oh, when am I going to be pulled next? So I think sticking with an announced starter before each week is the way to go, and then riding it until things maybe get out of hand in certain games.
Look, I think there's a reason that the saying exists, there is no Harrison Simeon team. Because it seems like you're very narrow-minded in a one-person mindset here. But, I mean, the power of friendship and teamwork, you know, if you put those together, you know, there's nothing that can stop that. And I think if we start to stop thinking of this as a quarterback battle and start thinking about it as a quarterback team, that's where we might find success, you know. And I know it could
Has there ever been a successful team like that?
Has there ever been anyone crazy enough to try it?
You know,
that's what I'll ask you.
Maybe you're right there.
Yeah. Well, okay. Are we ready for the final question?
I am.
This is a nail biter. This is for all of our Summer I Turned Pretty fans. Who is the Conrad and who is the Jeremiah? Lincoln, I'll let you take it away.
I think there is no doubt in my mind that Jeremiah is Salter and Ryan Staub is Conrad.
Ooh,
Right?
okay,
And
yeah.
here's why. Okay, when I think of Conrad, the first thing that comes to me is loyalty. You know, and if nothing else, Staub is loyal, right? I mean, we saw him stick here, knowing that he was under Shador, probably not going to see a lot of action. Then stay when given the opportunity to hit the portal, when he knew he was going to be the 3rd string, right? When we had a 5-star and a transfer coming in, right? I mean, I think no one loves the Colorado Buffaloes like that man does. I also think you have the long-term potential, right? He still has 2 years left in eligibility. We'll see, you know, that could be 8 years, depending on how many lawsuits Diego Pavia files. And, you know, I don't think even if we do see him never make an appearance this year, I still don't think he transfers. I still think he stays. Now, Salter, on the other hand, Jeremiah, you know, he comes in, he's the hot new guy, that everyone wants, right? But we know he's jealous, right? If we remember,
Do we?
Yes. If we remember, do you remember the comments he said in the press conference after, I believe it was BYU, where he was like, "Oh well, having me taken out for a game really messed with my head, right? Jealous, okay, kind of, impulsive." Oh, I see, someone wide open, but, I think I have an opportunity to run it. I think he's kind of a Jeremiah. And, if you really think about it, unloyal. I know there's an argument, did Jeremiah cheat or not?
He did.
But
he did.
Hitting the transfer portal, right, from Liberty, a team that has really given you its all, coming to Colorado, I would make the argument that that's kind of cheating in a way. And so that's my case.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have a third with Juju in that conversation. And if we remember back, that's a Cam Cameron right there. He's done nothing wrong. He's done everything right up to this point. He never, he came to Colorado. He was the first guy. They were like, you have the keys. You have, you're going to be the successor to Shedeur. But the situation just hasn't really allowed for him to grow or shine so far. And hopefully, like the first season, we don't see Julian go away like in the show. So
yeah, I think that's a great callback to season 1, and I agree. I think we're on agreement of giving Juju those reps, if nothing else, to keep him here.
Yep.
Because I think in
he's the
Summer
future.
I Turned Pretty, I don't think she really gave him enough of a chance, and he disappears. And that is something, if nothing else, I think neither of us want to see here for Colorado football.
Yeah. Justice for Cam Cameron.
Justice indeed.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for joining on this week's Buff Banner, and we will see you next week. Back to you at the desk.
All right, well, we had 2 different recommendations from the boys down south with Zy Chrysler and Kaylin Taylor, both talking about some catfish. Now, I love fishing. You guys all know that.
We're recording. Drag. That's a monster.
Well, we couldn't make it down to Texas or Mississippi, unfortunately, for some catfish. But what we got here in Colorado, Mo's been pretty good. Oh, yeah, look at that. Nice little toasted up, looking mighty fine. That's actually really flavorful. A great crunch. That fish tastes pretty fresh. Really soft bun. The bun's pretty flavorful as well. This is a really good catfish sandwich. Kaylin Taylor, he is versatile. We know what he could do with the ball in his hands and on the ground. A multi-threat. But Zy Chrysler playing right guard has been one of the nastiest, meanest new additions to this Colorado offensive line. Life's too short not to try the fries. This is the daily side, and sometimes you need a daily side of Zy Chrysler and Kaylin Taylor. Very crispy. Clean it up. You know how we do. Had to come try the catfish with the crew. It was fantastic. Thank you so much, Mo's. Another week, another restaurant. We'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Hey Buff fans, I'm Jackie Rivera, and I have your weather for Saturday afternoon's game against Iowa State. At kickoff, you're looking at 68 degrees with a 20% chance of rain. And then we're going to roll into another 68 degrees for halftime, but it's going to be cloudy instead. Then at the end of the game, we're looking at a nice 67, so kind of the same temperature throughout the game. Beautiful weather for football. Back to you guys at the desk.
It's now time for everyone's favorite segment, this week's trivia question. In honor of Ralphie 7 being named Brandy, our question is, how many Ralphies have had alcohol-related nicknames? Stay tuned to find out the answer later in the show.
On Saturday, the volleyball team crushed the Houston Cougars with a sweep in 3 sets. Junior pin attacker Anna Barelovich led the match in kills with 11, a big help in getting the Buffs to their 4th straight conference win at home against the Cougars. Overall, the Buffs outplayed the Cougars when it came to scorings, assists, digs, and aces. Houston was held by the Buffs to hitting under negative .065 in the first set and .48 in the second, while the Buffs hit over .300 in the matchup.
After taking down Houston, the Black and Gold continued their undefeated conference record against the Arizona Wildcats in 4 sets to get the win on Wednesday. Junior pin attacker Sydney Jordan was able to record her 3rd double-double this season with 17 digs and 13 kills. Colorado finished with 51 assists and 7 blocks, which helps bring the Buffs back on top to move to 5-0 in conference play.
According to the American College Volleyball Coaches Association, the AVCA, the Colorado Buffaloes are number 24 ranked team in the country. This is the first time in 4 years Colorado has been ranked in the AVCA poll, but the first time since rejoining the Big 12 Conference.
Following the win over Arizona on Wednesday, the Buffs will face the number 8 overall team in the country tonight, the Arizona State Sun Devils. CU looks to break their 3-game losing streak against the Sun Devils, but this time will be different. Both CU and ASU come in ranked for their 27th meeting all time. This game will be at 8 p.m. Mountain Time and will be streamed on ESPN+.
3 weeks from the 27th of September, Take 2 of the Utah Utes and the Colorado Buffaloes face off again, but in Boulder on Wednesday at 7 p.m. 2 weeks ago, the Buffs made a 3-set sweep in Salt Lake City to defeat the Utes. The Buffs look to continue the trend, but this time at the CU Event Center, the Utes are hoping to bounce back from the sweep. But for the matchup to be closer than last time, Utah needs to figure out how exactly to defend against star pin attacker Anna Barelovich. A bit better as she recorded 19 kills in that matchup. The game will be at the CU Event Center in Boulder on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time and will be streamed on ESPN+.
The Buffs fell to number 20 Baylor last Saturday after coming off a top 10 win over TCU. The Bears got a goal in the first half and held it into halftime. Emerson Lane got the game-tying goal during the second half before another Baylor goal put them up 2-1. An 89th minute equalizing goal from Faith Labia was reversed for offside as the Buffs came that close from a tie. Colorado falls in 9-2-2 on the season.
Despite the loss at number 20 Baylor, a win over the number 7 TCU helped propel the Buffs to a top 25 position. The latest United Soccer coaches put the Buffs at 24, just above the 8-2-2 West Virginia.
Hope Layla has been the driving force for the Buffs offense this season. Her 14 goals this season is good enough to lead the nation in goals. This performance has put her on the Herman Trophy mid-season watch list. Leyva put home 9 goals in her first 5 games, the most in program history. She is also one of 2 players to have multiple hat tricks this year. The Herman Trophy is also known as the National Player of the Year.
Leyva and the Buffs host the 9-2-2 Arizona State Sun Devils later tonight to start the season. The Sun Devils were unbeaten in their first 10 fixtures, which included a win against the number 10 ranked BYU Cougars. Since then, Arizona State only has 1 win in their last 4 matchups and have conceded goals in 6 of their last 7 games. Tune in to the Scope Up Sports social pages for live coverage of the game.
Following their clash with the Sun Devils, the Buffs will travel to Utah to take on the Utes. Last season, Colorado knocked off Utah in the first round of the Big 12 Championship. Through 5 conference games this season, the Utes have only captured 1 win. Utah has struggled to score goals through the first half of the season, which has resulted in the team only having a +2 goal differential, which plays in comparison to Colorado's +16. Kickoff is set for Thursday at 7 p.m. Mountain Time.
Those in need of their basketball fix, bright and early tomorrow, the men's Hoopers return to the CU Event Center for their annual black and gold scrimmage at 10 a.m. Admission is free to watch Tad Boyle and the gang, newly joined by transfer guard Barrington Hargress and many fascinating freshmen. Key returners wing Sebastian Ranchik likely won't play. However, he sprained his ankle in practice this past week. It's a nice little tune-up before Colorado starts the season a week from Sunday against Grace College.
Women's basketball was ranked 9th in the Big 12 preseason coaches poll released Thursday. CU hosts 3 of the 4 teams that received first place votes this season, being TCU, West Virginia, and Oklahoma State. The Buffs also found themselves as the first team out of ESPN's preseason bracketology. J.R. Payne's new look squad is expected to be right on the cusp of the March Madness.
Soon to lead those Buffs is forward Jade Masagayo. The senior was given preseason All Big 12 honors this past Thursday. Masagayo is coming off an All Big 12 honorable mention season, averaging 12.5 points and making 60% of her shots. She also tallied a career high in blocks per game and should anchor the CU's defense in the front court. Masagayo has embraced Boulder after a transfer from Missouri State and looks to finish her college career strong as the best player on a tournament team. Welcome to Folsom Feud. I'm your host, Colby, here with 3 contestants today, Lincoln, Baylan, and Kieran. Lincoln, start us off.
I'll take game day etiquette for 200.
All right. This is the best way to show respect during the CU fight song.
What is standing, singing loud, and raising your hand in the hook 'em horn sign?
Not what we're looking for. Baylan, you have an answer?
What is stand up, sing loud, and do the Ralphie horns?
Correct. Baylan, the board is yours.
Give me tailgate traditions for 400.
All right, here's the answer. The must-have item to wear on game day to show your Buff pride. Kieran?
What is black and gold?
That's correct. Nothing says school spirit like those 2 colors. Choose the next one.
Let's do fan etiquette for 600.
Fan etiquette. The proper response when you hear someone yell, "Go Buffs."
What is Skull Buffs?
Skull Buffs is right. Looks like we've got some true Buffs fans here. But thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to our contestants, and see you next time. The tennis team is in the midst of the ITA Mountain Regional Tournament. In the doubles bracket, duo Rix Vanderwerf and Lara Lexon were the only CU team left alive as they are looking forward to playing in the semifinals. The team has not had much success in singles play. Following yesterday's round of 32, every Buff has been knocked down into the consolation bracket. But they all will spend the rest of the weekend finishing out the tournament in their last few matches.
The men's golf team got off to a great start in round 1 of the Visit Stockton Pacific International yesterday, leaving a tie for first place. Brandon Knight shot a 67, becoming a major contributor in the Buffs' overall score of 12 under. That leaves CU tied with the University of Pacific after Thursday's round, with the tournament culminating with the 3rd and final rounds on Saturday.
The women's golf team continued its hot streak over the past weekend. The squad tied for 2nd with Texas State at the Ron Moore Intercollegiate in Highlands Ranch. Maya McVeigh led the Buffs once again, shooting 5 strokes under par in the tournament. She finished tied for 5th place. Junior Caroline Fuller shot 7 strokes under par in the first round, tying her collegiate best round. She struggled in the final 2 rounds, finishing 2 under. Good for 8 overall. Through the first 3 tournaments of the year, the Buffs have taken home hardware and claimed 2nd. Colorado looks to stay on fire at the Stanford Intercollegiate on October 17th.
Fall ball continues as CU baseball takes on the Wyoming Cowboys in a doubleheader this weekend. Buffs are coming off a 2-1 series win over School of Mines last weekend, which included a big 6th-inning comeback in one game and the first home loss of the season for CU in the other. Scova Sports will be streaming the doubleheader against Wyoming on our YouTube channel from Scott Carpenter Park on Sunday starting at 11. Baseball will then get a weekend off before they travel to Fort Collins to play CSU on October 25th.
Hey Buff fans, I'm Kieran Walker bringing you this week's top 5 plays in Colorado sports. We had some interesting ones this week and a lot are coming to us from Fort Worth, Texas. So let's dive right in with our number 5 pick this week. We go down to Fort Worth where Colorado Soccer was playing against TCU. Here's Kaylee Swaringa going up the right side. She's got Hope Leba out in center inside the box and she headbutts that one in. Hope Leba does it again. That is a 3-1 lead over the number 7 team in the country down in Fort Worth. What an upset for the junior. Let's go to number 4 this week. We stay in Fort Worth, this time for football. Caden Salter is going to take this snap, dropping back, looking downfield, seeing if he has a man. This ball is underthrown, but he's got Omarion Miller. and he makes one heck of a catch in the end zone in traffic. I mean, just look at this. This ball way underthrown, and Miller just able to capitalize and get the job done. We go down to number 3 now. We go to baseball this weekend against Colorado School of Mines. The ump is stopping play. What's happening here? What the heck? There's a bunny on the field, folks, down by home plate. In right field, running past, down behind home plate, in the dirt, behind, and looks like some of the CU players out there trying to ward it off, but now he's going to run out toward third base. Not sure what he's doing. Player's just clueless as he's out in the infield now. Just standing there, goes past third base, and he's going to go past the Buffalo's dugout. They're just watching here. Our minds are absolutely blown. Great job by our cameraman, Jake, as the bunny resting in toward left field, rather. Looking for a chance to get out, and he does finally. Play can resume. That was a goofy play, but we had to include that funny moment. Let's go to number 2 now. We stay at baseball. This was game 1 on Saturday. There's Nathan Hoffman up to the plate. He bats that one deep into left field. And ladies and gentlemen, that ball is gone, baby. That was one heck of a play. And in the words of the great Lincoln Roach, ladies and gentlemen, that is why he is the president, baby. Nathan Hoffman coming in clutch yet again. For number 1 this week, we go back to Jacksonville, Florida, for the Jaguars taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Trevor Lawrence looking. He's got a man downfield, and who is it? Hello, 12! Travis Hunter with an incredible catch. That man is not human. How does he do that? Incredible athleticism that we've seen from him in his days at Colorado, and that is translating into his days in the NFL. What a play by the rookie. That's going to do it for our Plays of the Week this week here on ScoBuff Sports. I'm Kieran Walker, wishing you a wonderful weekend.
Here we see Xavier McNevitz working on his reader for the live show. If we didn't have these readers done by Thursday night, chances are we would not be airing this show right now. Be like Xavier. Get your readers done. And don't forget to click save so that you don't lose any of your hard-earned work.
What's up, Buff fans? I'm Dylan Nation, and we've got a lot going on for you this weekend, so let's jump right in. First of all, the soccer team will be taking on Arizona State tonight at 7 here in Boulder. Next, volleyball will be up for a challenge, going head-to-head with Arizona State and Tempe. The Sun Devils are ranked 8th in the nation. The game will be on ESPN Plus tonight at 8 p.m. Tomorrow, we have yet another huge matchup at home with football facing off against 22nd ranked Iowa State at Folsom Field. Kickoff time is at 1:30 p.m. If you can't make it, be sure to tune in on ESPN so you don't miss out. Last but not least, the volleyball team will be back in Boulder in a game against Utah on Wednesday at 7 p.m. That's all I've got for this week's Rapid Fire. Once again, I'm Dylan Nation, and be sure to cheer up. Be gone.
The moment you've all been waiting for, it's time to reveal the answer to this week's trivia question. Earlier in the show, we asked how many Ralphies have had alcohol-related nicknames. The answer is, drumroll please, 3. The strange tradition began with Ralphie 2, who was nicknamed Moonshine. Since she was born during a lunar eclipse, Ralphie 3 was dubbed Tequila for her fiery personality, and Ralphie 5 was labeled Blackout, since she was the darkest calf in her herd.
Our tweet of the week comes from Coach Deion Sanders' Instagram. In a recent video, he's pictured balancing on a Segway while barking orders at practice on Tuesday. Sanders' resilience is on a roll, as even a procedure to remove blood clots last Tuesday hasn't slowed down his coaching duties. If possible, they need to get some Coach Prime decals, gold plating, and pimp that ride.
And now it's time for the debut of a very special segment. This week, we have a very special guest picker joining our Pick'ems crew. Let's take you now to Farron Field.
Hi everyone, I'm Hannah Howell, your ScoBuff Sports, and I'm here to introduce you to our very special guest picker this week. Take it away, Vale.
Well, Baylan, didn't I tell you it was going to be an exciting episode today?
That was a great episode.
Would you say it was the best episode of all time?
I'd call that the greatest episode of all time.
I wouldn't, but, it was good. And if you like great episodes like this one, you can always like and subscribe to know when Scope Up Sports goes live. But that's all from me, Colby Wyatt.
And I'm Baylan Wysuph, and remember, you heard it here first.